Hey adventurers, welcome back to the channel. Being a first-time dungeon master in Dungeons & Dragons can be challenging for several reasons. D&D has a comprehensive set of rules that cover everything from combat mechanics to spellcasting. For first-time DMs, remembering these various rules can be overwhelming. DMs are responsible for crafting an engaging story that captivates players, and unpredictable actions require DMs to think on their feet and adapt the story on the fly. Indeed, as a DM, it can often feel like the whole game hinges on you. In this video, I've got the top 10 tips to help you run your first unforgettable Dungeons & Dragons campaign. Let's get started! Tip number 1. Know the rules, but be flexible. Although it's essential to understand the core mechanics of D&D, remember, the rules are more like guidelines. If breaking a rule will enhance a story or create more fun, go for it. Many first-time DMs are put off as they think they need an encyclopedic knowledge of all the rules and spells. I very often make up the rules based on the player's actions. This is especially true for the results of ability checks and skill checks. Your world, your rules. Make sure players are responsible for keeping track of their own stats and spells. Don't be afraid to ask players, remind me how that spell works, or can you read me the spell? This is a very common occurrence in my games. Tip number 2. Prepare, but improvise. Planning your own campaigns and stories can be one of the most rewarding aspects of being a DM. Having a session outline is great, but your players will surprise you. This I can guarantee. It can be scary when this first happens to you, but it's important not to railroad your players and let them steer the story. You will often find the players' actions will inspire a whole new narrative element for the game. Try to embrace this, as it will make the players much more invested in the story and feel part of the world. Moving your encounters can be a useful technique for the unexpected. So you planned for the characters to explore the cave, where they would fight the goblins. The players instead took a path through the forest. Now we can change it to a goblin ambush. Tip number 3. Create a compelling story. A good D&D session is all about story, and crafting interesting NPCs, plot twists, and meaningful choices will keep your players engaged and excited for the next session. However, I strongly believe that a campaign story is the responsibility of the whole table. By embracing the player's unpredictability and character arcs, this can often lead to some of the most memorable and interesting moments. For more tips about writing story arc for D&D, please check out my video discussing this topic in more depth. Tip number 4. Encourage player agency. We have already discussed this, but remember to let your players make significant choices and see the consequences. It makes the game world feel alive and responsive. When players feel that their choices matter, they become more invested in the game, and it helps players immerse themselves in their characters and the world. Characters grow and evolve based on the choices they make, leading to deeper character development. You will find that player-driven actions create a more dynamic and unpredictable story, making the game feel more alive. When the story becomes a collaborative effort between the DM and the players, it leads to a richer and more diverse narratives. Allowing the players to make significant decisions makes them feel empowered and respected. Players are more likely to enjoy the game and return for future sessions when they see their actions having an impact, and it can lead to exciting and memorable moments that the DM might not have anticipated. Tip number 5. Balance combat and role-playing. In my experience, players tend to fall into two camps. Some players love the strategy of battle, while others enjoy deep character interactions and roleplay. It is important to mix it up and cater for everyone. You will soon get a sense from your table the kind of gameplay the players enjoy, and it can be fun to leave role-playing Easter eggs for certain players, or create notable combat situations you know a particular player will love. Just be careful not to leave any players out, and ask for feedback from the group. What do players enjoy? What encounters were their favourite? Have they gravitated to any particular NPCs or other characters? These can inspire other role-playing situations, or create high-stakes combat encounters. Tip number 6. Keep pacing in mind. Avoid letting the game drag. Keep things moving to maintain incitement and engagement. Sometimes players will reach a dead end. Perhaps they will struggle to understand where they need to go, get lost, or struggle to answer a riddle or open a door. Be vigilant to these situations and don't be afraid of giving the party some help. Tell the party to make a perception check. Maybe they spot the hidden door, or introduce an NPC to lead the way. Tip number 7. Use descriptive language. Help your players visualize the world by describing what they see, hear, smell, and feel. Make your scenes vivid and immersive. You can also use visual aids, such as pictures, diagrams, or terrain to make your world more realistic. Some DMs will also play atmospheric music during encounters. This can be especially effective during combat. Tip number 8. Listen to your players. Again, we have mentioned this before, but make sure to pay attention to what your players enjoy and adjust your game accordingly. Regular feedback helps improve everyone's experience around the table. If possible, always try to include relevant details and encounters relating to your player character's backstory within the campaign. I often find this can be the difference between a good campaign and an epic one. Tip number 9. Develop your system. One of the hardest things I found when I started DMing was tracking things like combat, remembering monster stats, and initiative orders. There are a number of ways that DMs keep organised for these things, and it would warrant a whole video on its own. Many DMs like to use folded paper with player names on top of the DM screen. Others like to use online initiative apps. Whichever one you use, find a system that works for you and stick with it. I often find that simple is best. If you would like me to make a video on this topic, please leave a comment. Tip number 10. Have fun. This rule really trumps all others. Remember, D&D is a game, and the main goal is for everyone to enjoy themselves. Don't stress over mistakes. Focus on creating memorable moments. Let your players do cool stuff. A good DM is secretly on the player's side and should want them to succeed while giving them an enjoyable challenge. That's it for today, adventurers. I hope these tips help you become an even better Dungeon Master. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more tips and tricks, and share your own DM tips in the comments below. Until next time, happy adventuring.